Well, it's done. Ray and I are no longer boyfriends. Last night, I went to his place, and I broke up with him. Today, he tried to get back together, and it didn't happen. Things had gotten ugly. Things had gotten violent. And in this video, I'll be getting into all the nasty details behind how I decided to end things, how our couple's trip to Mexico broke the camel's back, and how the actual breakup went. But before all that, some background. Ray and I had been exclusive friends with benefits for 2 years. Yes, I know. An uncommon arrangement, especially in the gay community. We were basically boyfriends, just without the official title. About 2 years in, we had gotten into a heated discussion about relationship expectations. I expressed that I was interested in a life partner, and he said, "If you're looking for a life partner, I'm not the one for you." A week later, we broke up. I couldn't be with him if he didn't even want to be life partners. But just days later, he wanted to get back together, saying that he realized he actually did want to be life partners with me. Not only that, he came out to his best friend the previous day. After sharing his coming out story, he asked me to be his boyfriend. Wow, finally! But it also felt like he was using the coming out story to bait a yes on the boyfriend question, and muscle his way back into a relationship with me. Honestly, I couldn't help it and said yes. After all, I had been wanting to be boyfriends for so long, and I thought, maybe things will be different now that he sees the relationship differently. Maybe he'll try harder. Maybe he'll finally put in more effort. Well, I guess he did. A bit. But you have to realize the full picture of what Ray was like as a partner. When he was in a good mood, he was so loving, sweet, caring, and generous. When he was in a bad mood, he was stubborn, unforgiving, and would not listen to reason. And that all boiled down to one big problem in our relationship. We couldn't talk about serious things. Big things like marriage and kids. Smaller things like why we were annoyed by something the other person said or did. Whenever I tried to talk through something, his emotions would burst into unbridled frustration, often going from 0 to 100 just like that. But I still loved him. So I tried his way, just letting things go and not talking about them. For a while, I thought we could make things work by living more separate lives. Him making his own decisions, and I my own. Separate homes, finances, and future kids. That way, we could enjoy our time together when we wanted, and not have the stress of talking through decisions together. But then came the Mexico trip. First off, this week-long trip was actually something I planned with my friend Melanie. I casually invited Ray, knowing he wasn't interested. But I think the fact that we were going to Puerto Vallarta, the gay mecca of Mexico, made him uneasy. So we eventually decided to tag along. Melanie ended up bailing on the trip, so now it was a couple's trip. 2 days in Puerto Vallarta, and 2 in Guadalajara, with him leaving early. Then 2 more days in Guadalajara by myself. I knew that this trip was going to make or break our relationship. We had never gone on an international trip before, and 2 nights was the longest we had ever stayed anywhere together. Even the 1 or 2 nights we did stay together often ended in arguments. If we were able to have a smooth trip to Mexico this time, I thought, perhaps there was a future for us. But as you already know, it did not go well. But to be fair though, things did start off not too badly. We were hyping up the trip, now 5 months in as boyfriends, and on the day of the flight, he was showing me the new charger adapter set he got, and the Ritz cracker sandwiches he was bringing along. It was sweet of him because he knew I really liked those Ritz cracker sandwiches. But the good times didn't last. With the stress of traveling, like going to the wrong terminal or trying to find an ATM to withdraw pesos, we eventually got into an argument where we stopped talking. Yes, on the first night. I did end up withdrawing some pesos on my own, giving him half after I got back, and inviting him to go grab some food. I waited in silence for his response, and he finally said, "Go ahead, I don't care." "Okay," I responded, leaving on my own. It was just another tantrum. He ended up eating chips for dinner that night and never left the room. I did bring back some tamales to share, but he refused. I ate them by myself and went for a walk. By the time I got back, he was asleep. The next morning, we went to the pier for a gay boat tour. We were still only exchanging short, bare minimum words, but eventually he softened up a bit and asked for a restart. I agreed and we hugged and kissed. He ended up being really sweet during the boat tour, even taking care of me when I got motion sickness. But early in the morning the next day, everything derailed. At about 6 a.m., he turned on the lights while I was still sleeping and started scuffling through his bags. It woke me up and I was annoyed, but I waited for him to realize his mistake and turn off the lights on his own. That didn't happen. And this wasn't the first time. In the past, when we had stayed at a hotel, he had also turned on the lights and watched TikToks loudly in the morning because he was done sleeping and wanted me to get up. Since he had knocked out earlier this time the night before, I thought this was a repeat of him trying to wake me up because he had gotten his rest already. I asked, "Can you turn off the lights?" Silence. "Hello? Can you turn off the lights?" I repeated. In an angry tone, he replied, "Don't you think there's a reason I need the light?" He slammed the light switch off. I was shaken. I thought I was asking calmly, albeit with a slightly irritated yet justified tone, but he immediately took it to 100. As I lay there thinking about what had just happened, he continued rustling even louder, stomping around and slamming the bathroom door shut, doing who knows what. Eventually, he finally went back to sleep. I realized later that maybe he had gotten up because something was wrong, and that I should have asked if everything was okay first. But still, did he need to respond with such hostility? The next morning, we talked about it. It turned out something really was wrong. There was discharge coming from his ear, so we turned on the lights to look for Q-tips. I felt bad, but wanted to explain where I was coming from, as well as suggest how we could have handled things differently. As our discussion got heated, we both tried to stay calm, but as you guessed, things still escalated. Again! As I was explaining my side of the story, he had had enough. Enraged, he took one of the Ritz cracker sandwich packs and threw it against the wall forcefully. Boom! The package was ripped open, and the cracker pieces scattered all over the floor. I was shaken again. I made comments about how violent that was. He went to the bathroom and locked the door. I stared at the Ritz crackers, originally an offering of love, now in crumbles, all over the dirty Airbnb floor. I tried to let it go and stay positive for our vacation, but I knew then that things were probably over for us. Even though he channeled his destructive energy into the Ritz, it felt geared toward me. I mean, really it was. And that kind of violence is a non-starter. Things did somehow cool off. I know. It's surprising we went from 0 to 100 back to 0 so quickly. But we were on more positive terms the rest of the day as we flew to Guadalajara. However, after I showered at the new Airbnb and was getting ready for bed, he got out of the bathroom, which had its door right at the foot of the bed, and said, "Can I get some privacy?" It was in a rude tone, and he said it as if I had done something wrong. I responded, "What do you mean? Like, for the bathroom?" He wanted me to go to the living room to wait while he took a dump because the sliding door was not private enough. I get that he wanted more privacy, but we've been in hotel rooms before, and he just played loud music while he was in the bathroom to create some artificial privacy. But by this time, I was fucking tired, ready to just crash on the bed. I said, I was just gonna get ready and sleep, walking off to finish my nighttime routine. After I got in the bed, he was pissed, asking me to go in the other room again. I said, "It's okay, I won't hear you from here." "Okay," he said, angrily grabbing his luggage and stuffing his clothes in. Realizing that he was actually going to leave our Airbnb at 11 p.m. in a foreign country, I went to the living room and laid on the couch, asking him to please just use the bathroom, that I just sleep on the couch. He refused, again and again. After more refusing, he eventually relented to sleeping on the couch for the night instead of leaving, as long as I went back to bed. I reluctantly agreed. The next morning, I went on our scheduled tour, as he pretended to keep sleeping so he could skip the tour and not talk to me. We eventually still met up, but he had booked a different hotel by then. Whew. Alright. Wow. Recounting all this took longer than I thought, but it's probably pretty clear to you by now that our relationship had become a cycle of tantrums and cool-offs. Sure, I may not have been on my best behavior either, but let's at least talk things out before they escalate. Ray always goes to 100 immediately. And sometimes I wonder, maybe he did feel a bit guilty after his tantrums. In fact, after he had left Mexico first, he was so sweet to me over text, saying that he missed me and loved me as I finished my trip. I don't know. Maybe he was compensating for his outbursts? Maybe not. But I already knew I needed to break up with him. And that brings us to last night. Yes, I know, finally. Last night at about 10 p.m., I parked in front of a Ralph's near his house and texted him that I was there to talk about a mental block. I had driven 45 minutes to see him, so he was nice enough to at least come out to talk. I led with my main concern, that we couldn't talk about things in our relationship. My phrasing definitely sounded like I was implying a breakup, and he plainly requested, "If you want to break up, just say so." I offered the option of either him getting therapy for his emotions or us getting couples therapy. Or we end things. He told me to decide, and after an appropriate pause, I ended it. We hugged, kissed, and after getting home, exchanged texts thanking each other and reiterating that we loved each other. It was as good as a breakup could be, and I was at peace. But this morning, he texted me about meeting tonight to talk, and I agreed. We got dinner, and afterwards we went to his car to chat. He reminded me that he would do anything for me, and that included being open to couples therapy. I was surprised. In the past, when I suggested couples therapy, he firmly said no, without even thinking about it. He explained that he really wanted to be life partners now, and that he was very sad when I said I thought things wouldn't work out between us. I'll be honest, even though I was ready for life without him, I was still very touched. He was earnest, admitting his mistakes, apologizing, and expressing remorse. And to hear that from someone you love does something to you. But I still didn't agree to take him back. This was basically the same as the last time we broke up. Like this time, he had previously admitted that he had taken advantage of me, of how I was so accommodating, and he promised that he wouldn't do that anymore. Yet, here we were again. He accepted my decision to stay broken up, and thanked me again. I can still see him in my mind, sitting in the driver's seat of his car, with a Sherpa blanket on his lap, calm, still, and very sad. I always wait till the last minute, when it's too late, he said, with a voice of acknowledged defeat. Feelings of wanting to stay together swarmed my chest, but it was clear in my mind that things needed to end. I asked if he'd like to hug, and he said, lightly, or else I'll be more sad. We hugged. A long, emotional hug. I felt the sense of loss bleeding from his heart to mine. He looked at me as I was opening the door to his car to leave and said, "Goodbye, Aaren." "Goodbye, Ray," I responded. After getting home, he texted me, "You're the best thing that happened to me. I wish I could have been with you as a life partner, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to grow as a person." We exchanged a few more texts of appreciation, and then I started to make this video. Honestly, I was still anxious at the start of this video, feeling like I was losing the opportunity of him coming back to me with a sense of renewed commitment. But after laying out everything, I feel more at ease. There's often a sense that the person doing the breakup is the bad guy. After all, in this case, we still love each other, and Ray wanted to do better and keep trying. But I'm confident in my decision. I gave it many tries, we had many arguments, and yet, just in the last week, things got violent. Eventually, I want to have kids of my own, and the kind of behavior I saw in Ray in Mexico isn't something I want my kids to be around. I can't have a 38-year-old man still learning how to control his temper. You should be ready to help others control their tempers by now. Maybe my standards are too high, maybe I'm too difficult to be with. That's all fine. Singlehood was in the cards for me to begin with anyway. At this point, the breakup is still fresh, and who knows, we might get back together. But I want to remind you and myself that this 2.5-year relationship wasn't all that horrible. Sure, we argued and fought, but we both loved each other deeply amidst our differences. The depth of love that I felt just from his touch, kiss, and hug were often so out of this world indescribable with words. I really am so thankful I got to experience this in my life. It's okay that it didn't last. It lasted as long as it needed to. And it was perfectly as long as it was.